Welcome back, guys, to the Futbal Biz podcast. As always, I am Grayson Mortimer. He is Evan McGuire, who is a sad boy, considering we will not be talking about his team in this episode. We are
Funny.
today going to be predicting the Champions League groups that we are very excited to do. There's a lot of quality teams in this competition. I think once again it'll be a great year, as it always is in this one.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'll have fun watching it.
Yeah, even though unfortunately Liverpool is not in it. I think they'll be in it next year though. Don't worry. Either winning the
Down
Europa
here.
or top four. We'll see.
Yeah, I went in Dublin. Why not?
Yeah, if you're one of a city that you're very proud of. Yeah, but moving right into it, we have Group A, which Group A is uh Bayern Munich, Man United, Galatasaray, and Copenhagen. Fourth place, unfortunately, I have to go Copenhagen. I just don't see how this team makes it out of this group. I just think there's too much quality in it. And I mean, Copenhagen's been in this competition a while, and they never make it out of their group. So I think it's unfortunately going to be that same thing again. And I don't see it happening. Third place, I have Galatasaray. I think they're a good team, but I wouldn't say they're a great team. What are your thoughts on those two picks so far?
Yeah, no, I mainly agree with that. I will say though, Galatasaray, they maybe could challenge for second.
Considering the state of Man United's form, yes, I
Yeah,
wouldn't put it past them. I do have United second right now, I do think that it is possible that Galatasaray are able to challenge with that. But I just think United's squad should win this. Will they? Nothing's a guarantee. You know, a lot of people thought Barcelona was going to beat Inter in that group last year. I didn't. I knew Inter was going to make it, but I definitely think that there's an outside shot that Galatasaray do have it. And Bayern Munich, I have top in the group at I think they'll get 18 points. I don't think they're going to drop a point in this group. I'd be truly shocked if they did.
yeah, no, I agree with this mainly. But again, Man United, they've had blunders in the past. I remember I think it was the 2021 season. It looked like they were gonna get out of the group, and then they just had an absolute stinker. Then I think it was against Leipzig, and it just cost them. And then they went into Europa, and again, it's kind of smelling like that same situation again. So that's why I'm not putting it past Galatasaray to, somehow see it out. I mean, especially when United have to go and travel to Turkey as well. I mean, those fans are unreal as well. Like the pressure's going to be against them. Like we already saw it like this week against Arsenal. Again, when Harry Maguire came on, he was getting bantered all the way by all the fans. They were cheering him on pretty much, which I found very funny. And I just think when it comes to the Galatasaray fans, it's going to be a whole nother level.
That's a good point. And yeah, Turkish fans are definitely some of the most intense in the world. They're definitely up there with the likes of Serbia and Croatia. Those fans are always very passionate. South America too. Argentina definitely sticks out there too. But yeah, I'm not going to put it past them. I do think Man U will get it done, but I mean it'll be hilarious if they don't.
Pressure's on them.
From both of our perspectives. I mean it would be funny, but I do think that I have to go with United being second. I'm not going to call the
Again,
upset
yeah,
necessarily, but we'll see. But as for Bayern Munich, that's kind of a no brainer.
they should ease that.
I think Hunter will be very happy about that group.
He'll be satisfied.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, moving on to Group B, which is Arsenal, PSV, Sevilla, and Lens. I have it in that order. I think Lens, unfortunately, are going to get last. I really don't see how they get above anything. Again, I don't see how they get above third in this group. I put Sevilla third because despite the fact that they are a better squad than PSV, they just seem to always go down to the Europa. I never see them really get through to the round of 16. Kind of the same thing with Copenhagen. They always seem to go down to the Europa League. Um, I just think PSV has a good chemistry to them. The Dutch teams always seem to do well in the Champions League. Obviously the likes of Ajax stick out in that 2019-2020 season. 2019, I believe, was the one where Ten Hag was able to bring them far. So I'm not
Yeah.
going to count PSV out. And Arsenal, I mean, Arsenal's just a better team than all the ones in this group, kind of similar to Group A with Bayern Munich. So I have them first.
I have it. Yeah, Lon's fourth. I'll say, yeah, I really think it's a battle between Sevilla and PSV for second, because like Sevilla, they aren't on the best form right now. Again, so I really find it actually difficult to see them even make it out. I could maybe see them dropping into Europa League once more. PSV, I mean, they're all right. They're pretty good too. But I do think all around Arsenal should top this group.
Yeah, PSV obviously did lose their star boy in Xavi Simmons. I mean, he was their best player last season. He's now in Leipzig, but even then, I mean, just Dutch teams that have a good repertoire in the Champions League, and I just think that with Sevilla's form right now, they're not gonna do it. I could even see Lens going and potentially beating them. Uh,
Yeah,
Lens I put as as like a cautious fourth, but I
again, yeah.
I really don't know how to predict them because on paper, you know, obviously, yeah, they got second last year in the French league, but I don't know how much I can trust French teams other than PSG in this
Yeah,
tournament. They
exactly.
typically don't do very well. Um, so I'm putting them last, but yeah, Sevilla could struggle. I could see them even finishing fourth in this group. I just think PSV and Arsenal are both gonna do better. I do see Arsenal dropping at least one game in this group. They always do. They always have that kind of expectation, and then they'll just lose a game that they shouldn't or tie a game that they shouldn't. So
Right.
maybe Arsenal ends up tying Sevilla or something like that. But
Yeah, I see
I
that.
still think that they're the better team to top the group.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it's Arsenal are the clear favorites to top this. It's really, I'd say, it really could be a three-way battle to get that second spot. Like, I won't lie. Like, I'm not trying to even sleep on Lons because like they have actually done so well over these past couple of years. They were only recently promoted. And then now they see themselves already back in the Champions League for the first time in, I believe it's 2 decades. So again, they're on the rise, kind of like with Union. So I would not be sleeping on them at all.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, that'll do it for Group B. We're gonna move on to Group C now. And last place, I got ST Braga. I mean, they're a good team. Don't get me wrong, but I just think the other three teams in this group are all way better. Portuguese teams have surprised me before, but they're not the level of, say, a Porto or Benfica. So I'm going to put them last. I put Union Berlin third. They did very well in the Bundesliga last season, but I mean they're not the level of either Napoli or Real Madrid. So I had to put them third. Do I think they could compete in this group? Absolutely. I think they have an outside chance. They do have some quality players such as Kevin Volland, who's been a long time Bundesliga player. But overall, I don't really see how Berlin is able to get a knockout stage. I do think Napoli is much stronger. I have them finishing second. They still have Osimhen. He's still there. I thought he was going to leave this summer, but he didn't. Kvara is still there. And I mean, they were able to retain most of their squad from last season, other than the biggest one being Kim Min Jae leaving. I think Napoli's a surefire bet for second. I think they'll beat the two teams below them easily. In first place, I got to go with the Kings of Europe. I got to go with Real Madrid. They're gonna get first in this group. I get they don't really have an out and out elite number 9 anymore, and they did lose Karim Benzema, but they got Jude Bellingham. He's been on fire as we've known, and I do think that they're good enough to just get it done. They're going to find a way. They always do. They have Carlo Ancelotti, and I just think Madrid is going to top this group. I think they'll get maybe not 18 points. I do think Napoli's a very good squad as well. Obviously, they did lose their coach, but I think Madrid is a surefire bet to get first in this group.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much all that you just said. Yeah, Union Berlin. I'd say maybe they could be in with the shout to fight for that second spot against Napoli. But really, yeah, Braga, I see coming last. There's no way, really. I believe like they're all three solid teams right there. But yeah, Real Madrid, I believe they should top this group. It's expected by them again. Already seeing the fast start now with Jude Bellingham coming into the squad. They should be on a roll there. Yeah, Napoli, I will give them benefit of the doubt that they should finish second. No doubt. I mean, they are currently the defending Serie A champions. They had a good run in the last UCL campaign, so they should be able to run it back and hopefully even go further.
Yeah, they definitely have a chance. I mean, they're a good squad. They still have a great squad. I mean, there's a lot of quality in there. You know, obviously I mentioned the two star players, but Zelinski's still there, as well as a decent foundation that they have. So I think Napoli should finish second. I mean, they have a good enough team. I think they're better than Union Berlin on paper. And yeah, Madrid is a no surefire doubt. And yeah, Braga. I've been surprised before, but I don't think that Braga is going to be that team that shocks me in any way.
Yeah, again, Union is going to be the one that tries to challenge Napoli for that second spot. And I wouldn't put it past them. They've been very well. They've played very well. I've been able to watch them very recently, and let me say, they are legit.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope that they are able to compete with Bayern for the Bundesliga this year. But I don't know. I don't see how they make it out of this group. I just think the other two teams are much stronger. But yeah, moving on from that group to Group D. So Group D, this one's pretty much. I think the first is going to be pretty set in stone, and then the other three are could really battle it out. I have Red Bull Salzburg finishing last. Do I think they can be finish higher? Potentially. They have done damage in this competition before. Um, I have Sociedad finishing third, Real Sociedad from Spain. A good squad, but they did lose David Silva, who I think is one of their talisman. I think they might rue that loss a little bit. Second place, I have Benfica. They seem to always show up in the group stage and then choke in the knockout stages because they're cursed. They have that 100-year curse that was set on them about 60 years ago. So they still have a while to go for that. So they're not winning any European trophies, but I do think they're good enough to finish this group second. And first place, I have Inter Milan, last year's runner-up. They're still a very good squad. Obviously, they did lose the likes of Milan Skriniar, but I do think that they're still a decent squad. They replaced Lukaku with Marcus Thuram. He's kind of hit the ground running in Serie A so far this year. And yeah, I mean, they still have Lautaro Martinez, who is by and far a very good European striker when he's not playing in the World Cup. Outside of that, he's still very class. So I think Inter Milan is a surefire bet to get first in this group. Benfica, I believe, will get second. The other two could be a complete toss up, but I do think it'll be Sociedad than RB Salzburg.
Yeah, no, I do have to agree with that also. I believe Salzburg, again, anytime they're really grouped in a Champions League, they usually come dead last. Real Sociedad, yeah, again, they're not on best form right now. Third. Benfica, they could maybe challenge for first again. They're pretty good firing out again. Like we saw them top the group last year against PSG. I mean, that was an unreal run there. But no, Inter should top this. They're just coming off, being runners up in the last campaign. They've been able to, bring in some new players to change it up, and I do think that currently on form right now, they should be able to top this.
Yeah, the one thing with Benfica is I don't think they'll top it because I think losing Gonzalo Ramos is going to hurt them a little bit. Obviously a good player, obviously he is, and he'll help PSG, but I think it's a bigger loss for Benfica than it is PSG's gain. But Benfica always tend to find a way. So yeah, I don't think there's too much more to discuss in this group. I think this one feels fairly set in stone for me.
Yeah, it's the most safe one, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. Next group is Group E, which is Celtic, Feyenoord, Lazio, and Atletico Madrid. Celtic have no chance. They don't. They're one of the weakest squads in the Champions League to begin with, and they lost their coach. So Celtic are screwed. There's no chance that they are making it out of this group. And if they do, I don't know what I'll do. I'll be as surprised as everyone else. But it's not a good squad. It's not a great squad. It's not a Champions League squad. I get Brendan Rodgers went back there, and I do like him as a coach, but he's not getting out of this group. Feyenoord, again, I like Dutch squads. I just think the other two are better. Could they challenge Lazio for second? I definitely think they could. But I think Lazio is definitely strong enough to get second and then first place. is, Atletico Day Park the bus. They're gonna get first. They always do well in Europe up until when it really matters. So I think that they're gonna get first. I trust Atletico to top this group.
Yeah, as much as I want to say Celtic have somewhat of a chance, realistically they don't. Sure, they drew to St. Johnstone, and then also they only just managed to beat Rangers by 1 goal. I mean, again, that's a bit underwhelming, I'd say. And as a man who, you know, backs Celtic, I love to see them, being with a shout, but no, that again, they're finishing fourth. They're like championship level at best. Feyenoord, yeah, they'll go back to Europa League. I mean, they do fairly well in Europa League, and just seeing the two above them right now, they're far more Champions League pedigree. Lazio, I do believe, will finish second, and again, Atletico should top this.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, Lazio did lose one of their best players in Milinkovic Savic, but they still have a decent squad. I mean, Chiro Immobile is still there. He's their absolute talisman. Always scores in just a ton of goals in Serie A. He'll even potentially challenge the likes of Atletico. Felipe Anderson's still there. Obviously, he didn't do great in West Ham, but I mean, he was dynamite in Serie A. Luis Alberto's a quality player as well, and then Romagnoli in defense. There's a lot of good players in Lazio's squad, and I do think that they'll be able to get second in this group, no problem. And then obviously, old boy Barcelona man Pedro is also still there. So there's a lot of quality in Lazio's squad. I just think they're better than Feyenoord on paper, so I got to go with them second. I think a lot of people will have this set of predictions in this group. I think a lot of people will put
Yeah.
Atletico Madrid first.
Mm,
I'd love them to get shocked. I hate the way they play, but they're efficient. I mean, they're an efficient team. They stay true to what Simeone teaches them. They love parking that bus. They love just sitting back, scoring
right.
one, or on the occasion scoring seven. It's what they do. That's how Atletico Madrid plays. But they're just the best team in this group. Antoine Griezmann's
Yeah.
class. He's gonna get it done.
Right. And then even then with Celtic too, I forgot to add this. They also lost their best player in Jota. So
Yeah, I
again,
completely forgot about that. He went to Saudi, so yeah,
yeah. So again, losing your coach and then also losing your star player. Like they've regressed.
yeah. No, they're screwed. I hope for the best for them, but it's gonna look like Rangers did last year when Liverpool went up to Scotland and beat them 7-0.
Yeah,
I have a
honestly.
feeling that Lazio's just gonna tear them apart. I would say Atleti, but again, they don't score, so I'm gonna say that it'll be Lazio that absolutely just shreds Celtic. We'll see what happens there, though.
Yeah, sure. If Atletico managed to score 3 goals or 4 goals, then you're in for a bad shout. Just a bad campaign.
That's true. That is very true. I don't see how Celtic do anything in this group. I just don't see how it happens. But I think that's all we really need to say about that group. Now, Group F. This is easily the toughest one to predict. There's all four of these teams could win this group. I mean, the teams are Dortmund, Newcastle, PSG, and AC Milan. I don't get how these groups appear sometimes because you get groups like, cities, which we'll discuss shortly. And then you get groups like this where just all four teams are just absolute powerhouses.
Right.
But that being said, I put AC Milan fourth. I don't think that they're going to do anything in Europe this season. Are they European royalty? Absolutely. They have that level of pedigree to them, but their squad just isn't as good as the other three. I just think that losing Sandro Tonali to one of the teams they're playing, by the way, is going to hurt. Leao is class. I mean, he's one of the best players in the world, but I just don't see how he alone can get it done against some very good squads. Um, so I just don't see how AC Milan get higher than fourth in this group. Could they? Absolutely. They could shock. Well, it wouldn't even really be a huge shock, but I just don't see them doing any damage in this group. Third place, I'm going to go Dortmund. I just think that they're too inconsistent. They have a great squad. I mean, there's a lot of quality players in there, like Marco Reus, Mats Hummels, Eddie Yemi's still in there. But they're so inconsistent. They'll have an absolute world beating performance, and then they'll just draw or lose the next game. And I just think with that inconsistency, they're not going to get higher than third. Second place, I'm going with Newcastle. I think they're a very good team. They haven't had the best start to the Premier League season, but they've, to be fair to them, played some very nice teams. Could Newcastle finish lower than second? Yes. I mean, they're in a vulnerable spot right now, but I just think their squad is good enough to get it done. They have a good philosophy under Eddie Howe, and I think Newcastle's going to be able to get it done in second place. In first place, I have PSG for the sole reason that I just think that with their new look team, I think they're going to gel better. I think they're going to click. Have they had a good start to the French season? No, they've drawn twice. All these teams, they're all very good, but they all have not had the best starts to the season. So I think PSG squad is the best one. I'm going to say that they get first, Newcastle gets second, Dortmund gets third, and AC Milan finish last.
Yeah, I think with this one, this is where the big disagreement comes in because I see Dortmund possibly getting last.
I don't disagree with that.
Just for the reason, like they've already just started off pretty poor in the Bundesliga. Again, they've lost their star player off to Real Madrid, so bit of sense of discouragement in that. And then for third, I'm probably gonna have to go PSG. Honestly, just I haven't seen them play yet, really, and like just seeing like the current form that they're on, I already seen that they draw to Toulouse, and they happen to be in Liverpool's group in Europa League. So again, I'm not entirely sure really if Mbappe can like just run the show, especially in this group. Really, uh, in second, I'll probably have to go Newcastle. Newcastle, I mean, they've played some tough teams, and I just feel like again they'll probably maybe eventually pick up the pace and find some form, and maybe be able to scrap maybe a win over say both Dortmund and again PSG. I think they have enough more chemistry there to get past those teams. And then in first, I'm gonna have to go AC Milan. Again, they find some. Again, I know you're making faces right there right now, being like, "What is this guy saying?" But again, they've started off pretty well so far in Serie A. And again, so far Christian Pulisic, he's been playing very well, honestly, in that team. Like I really feel confident in saying that they can definitely make it out of this group. And then even then, Giroud's on form too. Leao, he's still doing his thing. Again, this team is has some good chemistry going.
They do, and I don't entirely. Again, this group is completely wide open.
It's a toss
Dortmund
up.
could finish last. I don't think I think the one thing we agree on is that Dortmund is not getting out of this group. They're not. There's no chance. Um, but where I think Milan will stutter is just they're not the same level of squad as either Newcastle or PSG. Have they made some good transfers? Yes. The likes of Pulisic until he goes in the treatment room. Chukwueze is a good signing. Musa is a good signing. But I don't trust their squad depth as much as the others. And obviously Newcastle's squad depth isn't great either, but I just think their starting 11 is of a higher quality. I mean, they took one of Milan's best players and he's already doing really well in that Newcastle team despite the team's poor form. They have kicked on. They've done well this so far this season, but PSG, I think PSG is getting out of the group. They're too good of a team. Mbappe is a top two player in the world. Some would argue he's number one right now. Do I think he is? No. I think Holland's playing in a better league and he's on a better form. Right now, he's clear, but I think Mbappe is good enough to get this team out of the group. He's going to probably put up 5 or 6 goals in the group stage. I see him just doing that. He's going to run the show. And he's got a good team behind him. They didn't sell Verratti. Verratti's still on that team in that squad. They've upgraded their defense. They got Skriniar for an injury-prone Sergio Ramos. And I mean, Donnarumma is one of the best keepers in the world, and their front three looks completely different in a better way. I mean, I get that it's not a better front three, but it's going to be one that I think will have more chemistry. I think Kolo Muani and the likes of Gonzalo Ramos or Usman Dembele are going to find better form with Mbappe. I just don't see how they don't qualify for this group.
It really comes down to if Mbappe is going to be capable enough to really lead this team, especially now without the likes of Neymar and Messi. Uh, Again, Newcastle, like I said, they've had a bit of an unfortunate run, but I think eventually they'll be able to gel and be able to eventually find some form. Because again, I don't think Dortmund are really capable of being able to challenge again, losing your star player. Haven't found the right form so far to kick off and challenge Bayern Munich like they should be doing. And then who else? Who's the other team? I'm trying to remember here.
Milan or
I'm trying to think because I was talking about PSG and then
PSG, Newcastle, Dortmund, Milan are the four teams. So Milan, I would believe, is the one that you're
oh
talking
yeah,
about.
Milan. Well, yeah, like I said, Milan, I think they do have enough. Like they're on the best form, I'd say, right now out of all four of these teams.
Yeah, I don't trust their depth. I really don't. And if Leao goes down, I mean, if Pulisic is your best option, I mean, is he bad by any means? No, but he's not the same level that Leao is. Um, and even if Leao does play every game, I think I could potentially agree with you on Dortmund being last. I don't think that they're going to do anything, but I don't see how Milan get out of the group either. I just think that Newcastle and PSG have the better squads, but we'll see. That's really all I got to say for this one.
Yeah, again, it's really a toss-up group. It's so annoying how like again, some teams just get like absolute like tin pot teams to play, such as like Celtic, and then not really a talk down on Antwerp, but like what are they doing here in all fairness? But yeah, no, again, it can go either way. We could both be wrong in all
Yeah,
fairness.
absolutely. Dortmund could win the group, but yeah. Anyways, moving on from that group to the next one, and from one of the toughest groups to predict to probably the easiest one. It's City's group, which the bottom team is going to be, and I apologize to any people that are Czech for my butchering of this name. Cervena Zvezda.
You can just say
Zvezda.
Reds. You could just say Red Star Belgrade.
Oh, it's Red Star Belgrade. Oh, I didn't even
Yeah,
realize that. I made a mistake then. My apologies to Czech people and Serbians.
yeah.
No offense to the best team in Serbia, but they're getting last. They're not going to do anything. Um, they're just not going anywhere. They're not going to win. Third and fourth are kind of a toss up because Young Boys could easily finish fourth as well, but they're getting third. And second, I have Leipzig. They've kicked on in the season in the Bundesliga. They're still a very good team. Xavi Simons has been phenomenal for them. They still have the likes of Danny Olmo, Vili Orban, Peter Galassi, among others. Leipzig's a great squad. They're going to get second. City's going to get first on 18 points. They're not going to drop a game. I mean, they beat Leipzig 7-0 last year at home. So Leipzig may have some, revenge or a bone to pick with City, but unfortunately, the bone will be picked up by Josko Vardiol, and he will defend City against all Leipzig attacks. City's easily going to win this one. I don't see how they don't. And even if they are on poor form against Leipzig, they're going to easily beat the other two teams in this group. Um, Red Star Belgrade is not going to win, and much. They might win against Young Boys. That could be a toss up, but the rest of the group is pretty cut and dry.
The only things I really disagree with what you said is that I'd say Young Boys finish last
And they
again.
could.
Yeah, I think Red Star Belgrade, they have enough in the tank, I'd say, to get third. Like I've watched them play years past again. Like I remember the year that well, this is years ago I'm talking about, but like they played us in the group the year we won the Champions League, but they gave us a hard time anyway. I think think we lost as well when we went there, if I can remember correctly. But again, like it's a tough environment to go to. So that's what I'm saying. Even the likes of Leipzig or maybe even City, they could maybe have a bit, they could have a little bit of trouble going there. But again, I do see Man City topping this group. However, I will say Leipzig could be in with the shout to maybe fight for first. Not to say that they will get first, because I really don't think they'll get first. However, I don't think Man City will have perfect points. I say they will maybe tie once at least. I say maybe when they travel away to Leipzig, kind of like how it happened again in the knockouts this past season.
Yeah, they obviously drew 1-1 in that game, but again, they made up for it. Erling Haaland made up for it after that. He scored 5 goals in one game.
Yeah, that's unreal.
That was insane. But I do think that City's just they're the best team in the world right now. They're not unstoppable, but they're the closest thing to unstoppable out of any of these teams that we've talked about today. And we'll talk about today. But yeah, I just don't see how City don't win this group. I mean, if they don't, that's just Pep. What are you doing, man? I love you,
Yeah.
but what are you doing? How do you not get first in this group? But yeah, Leipzig should be second. I could see. I see your point to Belgrade. I do think that they could challenge these teams, but I just think young boys. I mean, the Swiss league, in my opinion, is tougher than the Serbian league. Not the atmospheres, not even close. But I just think the quality of play is higher in the Swiss league. But I mean, yeah, third and fourth could go either way. But yeah. And finally, moving on to our last group, which is again one that I think is pretty clear cut. As you said, Antwerp is getting last.
Yeah.
They're not going to do anything in this group. They're really not. Yeah, the Belgian teams typically don't do great in the UCL. Club Bruges obviously got out of the group a year ago with Scott Parker somehow. But
Yeah.
Antwerp's not getting out of this group. They're not. They're just not. But third place, I got Shakhtar Donetsk. They're not playing in their own stadium. They're currently playing in Hamburg. The only reason I know that's because of Fiago, but I do think that they're going to get third in this group. Porto, I think, will get second, and Barcelona should get first. They've shocked me before. If they didn't get first, I would laugh at them, but they should. I mean, this is an easy group for Barcelona. I mean, let's be honest here. They're a much better team than any of these others. Porto's a good squad as well, but Barcelona's just, I mean, they're a step above the rest here, and they'll get first. Porto should get second. Shakhtar, I think, is a pretty clear-cut third. Antwerp's last.
Agreed with everything you said. Barcelona should be sleeping well and knowing the fact that they don't have to play against Bayern Munich once more.
Watch as they get them in the round of 16.
That'd be pretty hilarious, I'd say. But unless that they do top the group and say Bayern Munich top their group, then it's
It
not going
won't
to be
happen,
possible.
yeah.
Yeah. Again, if miracles happen in Porto somehow to pull it off, then yeah, sure. Or maybe Bayern could just play so low that they just get second, but still good enough to challenge
Just to bring
Barcelona,
Barcelona to the
just to annoy
Allianz.
them. That would be class. But
That'd
no,
be
yeah.
funny.
But again, I do expect Barcelona to finally be able to advance to the knockout stages after two absolute blunders back to back.
Yeah, I mean, Barcelona choking in Europe is something that brings me joy. As someone who doesn't just like Madrid, but I also just don't like Barcelona. I never have. But yeah, I mean, you got to be neutral with these things. They're just a better team than the rest of the ones in here. Porto could challenge them. Even Shakhtar could challenge them. It's a very different environment than what either team is going to be used to. But yeah, I mean this group. If our prediction for this group doesn't happen, then football just is that unpredictable, and it is. But
Yeah, why do we even bother still doing this podcast then?
yeah, we're just two blokes trying to guess the best we can. But
Yeah.
overall, I think I think this group is cut and dry. But that'll do it for us this week. We went through the Champions League groups. We hope that most of our predictions are right. We will revisit this after the group stage does conclude. But that'll do it for us this week. As always, I am Grayson Mortimer,
I'm Evan McGuire.
and we will see you next time.